Have you ever wondered what drives a dog to defy orders, risk everything, and stand its ground, even against its handler? What could possibly compel an animal to act so boldly that it changes the course of events forever? This is the story of Titan, a German Shepherd police dog whose unwavering courage and extraordinary instincts uncovered a chilling truth hidden in plain sight. What he found beneath the surface didn't just save lives, it shook everyone to their core. The fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow across Terminal 3 of O'Hare International Airport. Officer Michael Reeves adjusted his winter patrol jacket, his breath visible in the January chill. Beside him, Titan, his German Shepherd partner of 3 years, maintained perfect heel position, his dark eyes scanning the steady stream of travelers with practiced intensity. The morning rush was in full swing, with passengers hurrying to their gates through the snowstorm that had blanketed Chicago overnight. Weather delays had created a tense atmosphere, with anxious travelers checking departure boards and flight crews rushing to minimize further disruptions. "Just another day in paradise, huh, boy?" Reeves murmured, scratching behind Titan's ear. The shepherd leaned into his touch briefly before resuming his vigilant posture. Reeves smiled, remembering how his colleagues had nicknamed Titan the Professor for his almost unnerving ability to analyze situations. The dog never barked without reason, a quality that had made them one of the airport's most respected security teams. They continued their sweep through the international terminal, Titan moving with fluid grace between bags and passengers. Every few minutes he would glance up at Reeves, their years of partnership evident in the subtle communication between them. They had just passed the premium airline lounges when Titan's behavior shifted dramatically, a change so sudden that Reeves immediately took notice. The shepherd's ears pricked forward, his body tensing as his focus locked onto a pilot walking confidently through the crew security lane. Captain James Harrington, according to his visible ID badge, was heading toward the flight deck preparation area, his flight bag slung over one shoulder. Nothing about him appeared unusual. His uniform was immaculate, his manner professional as he nodded to the security personnel. But Titan's posture transformed from routine patrol to rigid alertness, a low growl rumbling in his throat, escalating rapidly to determined barking as he pulled Reeves toward the pilot. "Titan, heel," Reeves commanded, but for the first time in their partnership, Titan ignored the order. The shepherd lunged forward, positioning himself directly in the pilot's path, his barking now drawing startled looks from everyone in the vicinity. When Captain Harrington attempted to step around him, Titan matched his movements, physically blocking him from proceeding farther. "Control your dog, officer," Harrington snapped, his face flushing with anger as passengers began to stare. "I have a transatlantic flight departing in 40 minutes. "I apologize for the inconvenience, Captain," Reeves said, keeping his voice measured while maintaining his grip on Titan's leash. "But my partner doesn't react this way without cause." Harrington's jaw tightened. "Well, your partner is mistaken. I've been flying for American Airlines for 15 years. I don't have time for this." Airport Security Supervisor Diane Coleman approached, her expression a careful mask of professionalism despite the scene unfolding in the busy terminal. "What's the situation, Reeves?" she asked quietly. "Titan's alerting strongly to the captain here," Reeves explained, noting that Titan's attention remained unwaveringly fixed on Harrington. "I've never seen him react this intensely to airline personnel." "This is ridiculous," Harrington interjected, checking his watch. "Flight 8862 to London has already been delayed due to the snowstorm. I have 243 passengers waiting to board." Coleman glanced between the barking shepherd and the increasingly agitated pilot. "Officer Reeves, you know we can't delay a flight because your dog is having an episode." Reeves felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. 3 years of working with Titan had taught him to trust the dog's instincts implicitly. Titan hadn't been wrong yet. Not when he detected that concealed weapon last year, not when he found the drug smuggler with surgical implants 2 months ago. "I'm requesting a secondary screening for Captain Harrington," Reeves stated firmly. "Protocol allows for random additional security checks of all personnel, including flight crew." "This isn't random," Harrington snapped, his face growing redder. "It's harassment. I'm calling the Airline Operations Center." As the pilot reached for his phone, Reeves noticed something that strengthened his resolve. A slight tremor in Harrington's hand, a tightness around his eyes that hadn't been there moments before. Fear, possibly? Or anger at being delayed? Either way, it wasn't the typical reaction of innocent airline employees who occasionally underwent random screening. "Sir, please come with us for a quick additional check," Coleman said, making her decision. "We'll expedite the process to minimize the delay to your flight." This is outrageous, Harrington protested, but Reeves noticed how the pilot's eyes darted toward the nearest exit. Captain, this can be handled quietly or we can make it official, Coleman warned. Your choice. Harrington's shoulders slumped slightly. Fine, but the airline will hear about this. As they escorted the pilot toward the private screening room, Reeves leaned down to Titan, who had calmed slightly but remained alert. Good boy, he whispered. I trust you. Over his shoulder, Reeves caught a glimpse of the departure board. Flight 862 to London Heathrow, delayed. He just hoped he wasn't about to make the biggest mistake of his career or prevent the biggest disaster. The private screening room was austere. White walls, a metal table, and 4 chairs under unforgiving fluorescent lights. Titan sat alertly by the door as TSA officer Marcus Wong methodically examined Captain Harrington's credentials. Everything appears in order, Wong stated, comparing the pilot's license and ID against the database. Captain James Harrington, 15 years with American Airlines, current on all certifications and clearances. Harrington sat stiffly, arms crossed. As I said, now, can I please get to my aircraft? The flight plan has already been filed, and we're burning fuel on the tarmac. Reeves observed silently as Wong opened Harrington's flight bag. Standard items emerged, a flight manual, navigation chart, spare epaulets, reading glasses, an energy bar, and a travel-size toiletry kit. Nothing unusual. Sir, would you mind removing your jacket? Wong asked, his tone professional. Harrington complied with visible irritation, placing his uniform jacket on the table. This is beyond procedure, even for random screening. Wong carefully examined the jacket, checking each pocket and seam, while Reeves watched Titan. The dog's attention hadn't wavered. His eyes remained fixed on the pilot, following his every movement. Checking with operations, Coleman said, stepping back into the room after using her radio. They're positioning a backup pilot just in case, but they need a decision within 15 minutes. Pressure mounted in the small room. Reeves felt doubt creeping in. Despite his trust in Titan, the evidence, or lack thereof, was making him question his decision. Look, Harrington said, his tone softening. I understand you're doing your job. Maybe your dog smelled my cat on my clothes. I had to give her medication this morning before leaving. The explanation was plausible. K9S occasionally alerted to animal scents, especially medications with chemical compounds similar to contraband. Wong completed his inspection, finding nothing. Everything checks out, he concluded. Coleman sighed with relief. I think we can clear Captain Harrington. We'll note the incident and... Suddenly, Titan barked sharply, rising to his feet. Reeves had worked with him long enough to recognize this wasn't just persistence, this was escalation. The dog was telling them they were missing something. Sir, Reeves said carefully, would you mind emptying your pants pockets as well? Harrington's expression flickered. So briefly, most would miss it. Fine. He pulled out a wallet, keys, a phone, and some loose change, placing them on the table. Wong examined each item, focusing particularly on the phone. Standard iPhone, no modifications visible. Satisfied? Harrington asked, reaching for his belongings. As his sleeve pulled back, Reeves noticed a thin sheen of sweat on the pilot's wrist despite the room's cool temperature. The man's breathing had also subtly accelerated. Actually, Reeves said, I'd like to request a full body scan and an ion detector swab. Harrington froze. That's not standard procedure for flight crew. It is when there's reasonable suspicion, Coleman replied, her earlier skepticism fading as she too noticed the pilot's changing demeanor. I need to make a call to my union representative, Harrington insisted. Coleman nodded to Wong, who stepped forward. Your phone will need to remain here during the additional screening, Captain. The atmosphere in the room had transformed. What began as an apparent false alarm now felt like the beginning of something far more serious. As they prepared to move Harrington to the advanced screening area, Titan's behavior evolved again. The shepherd pulled toward the uniform jacket still lying on the table, his focus narrowing with laser precision. He's trying to tell us something specific, Reeves said, allowing Titan to approach the jacket. The dog sniffed methodically along the garment, then paused at the collar area, pawing gently but insistently at the left lapel. Harrington shifted uncomfortably. This is absurd. That's a standard uniform issued by the airline. Reeves remembered a case from 6 months earlier. A smuggler had sewn contraband into clothing seams, undetectable through standard pat-downs. Titan had found it then, too. I'd like to examine this more closely, Reeves said, picking up the jacket. He ran his fingers carefully along the collar and lapel where Titan had indicated. Though nothing felt immediately obvious, he noticed the stitching on the left side appeared slightly different, almost imperceptibly tighter. We need the portable imaging equipment, he told Coleman, the kind they use for suspected electronic concealments. You're ripping apart my uniform based on a dog's behavior? Harrington protested, his voice rising. This is custom tailored, worth over $2,000. Coleman hesitated, then made the call. If nothing's found, the department will compensate for any damage, she assured the pilot. As they waited for the equipment, Reeves reflected on Titan's history. The Shepherd had once detected a memory card hidden inside a hollowed-out pen that contained crucial evidence in a human trafficking case. Another time, he alerted to explosive residue so minimal that even the laboratory had initially missed it. I've worked with K9 units for 12 years, Reeves explained to Coleman. Titan doesn't make mistakes. His detection rate is nearly perfect. The imaging technician arrived with a portable X-ray device, carefully scanning the jacket while they all watched the attached monitor. For several moments, nothing appeared unusual. Then, as the scanner passed over the left lapel, something showed up. A thin, flat object embedded within the fabric, nearly invisible to the naked eye. What is that? Coleman asked, peering at the screen. The technician adjusted the settings, enhancing the image. It looks like some kind of microchip or thin electronic component. All eyes turned to Harrington, whose face had drained of color. Captain, Coleman said, her voice now hard, care to explain what's hidden in your uniform? Harrington's composure cracked. I want a lawyer. Reeves knelt beside Titan, who had finally relaxed, his mission accomplished. Good boy, he whispered. You were right all along. Michael Reeves hadn't always trusted dogs the way he trusted Titan. Growing up in South Chicago, he'd been bitten by a neighbor's Rottweiler at age 8, an experience that left him wary of canines for years. By the time he joined the Chicago Police Department at 23, he'd overcome most of his apprehension, but still never imagined he'd become a canine handler. That changed during his 4th year on the force when he witnessed K9 Officer Patrice Williams and her Belgian Malinois Rex track a kidnapping suspect through an industrial park to rescue a 6-year-old child. The precision, the partnership, the silent communication between handler and dog had struck something deep within him. 3 months later, Reeves applied for the K9 unit. His supervisor had been surprised. Reeves had built a solid reputation in cybercrime investigation, not field operations. But something about the bond between handler and dog called to him. You sure about this, Mike? His sergeant had asked. K9 work isn't just a job, it's a lifestyle. That dog goes home with you, lives with you, depends on you. I'm sure, Reeves had answered, more confidently than he felt. The Homeland Security K9 Training Center in Texas had paired him with Titan, then a 2-year-old shepherd who'd washed out of 2 previous training attempts. Not for lack of ability, but for what instructors called excessive analytical behavior. Most detection dogs alert immediately when they find a target scent, head trainer Martinez had explained. Titan stops, processes, verifies, then alerts, makes them slower in certification tests, but potentially more accurate in complex environments. Their first weeks together had been challenging. Reeves, still learning handler techniques, would grow frustrated when Titan would pause during detection exercises, seemingly distracted. The breakthrough came during a training scenario when Titan ignored the planted explosive material and instead alerted to an airport worker's bag that hadn't been part of the exercise. Security found prescription medications the worker had forgotten to declare. Medications containing chemical compound that could be used in improvised explosives. He wasn't wrong, Martinez had said, impressed. He was being thorough. After that, Reeves adjusted his approach, giving Titan the time he needed to process sense. Their certification scores improved dramatically, and when they were assigned to O'Hare's International Terminal, they quickly established themselves as the team that found what others missed. Their most significant case had come 8 months ago when Titan alerted to a diplomatic pouch technically outside their jurisdiction to search. Reeves had trusted his partner enough to delay the diplomatic courier, creating an international incident that was only resolved when the subsequent investigation revealed counterfeit diplomatic credentials and smuggled biological samples. That case had earned them commendations and a reputation for being willing to follow Titan's nose, regardless of politics or pressure. Trust the dog had become Reeves' personal mantra. When in doubt, when under pressure, when facing skepticism from superiors, those 3 words centered him, and Titan had never let him down. Even now, as the investigation into Captain Harrington intensified, Reeves clung to that certainty amidst the growing tension around them. The specialized TSA technical team worked with methodical precision, carefully cutting through the stitching of Captain Harrington's uniform lapel under the bright examination lights. Harrington sat handcuffed to a chair in the corner, silent since requesting legal representation 15 minutes earlier. Careful, cautioned senior technician Sophia Lynn as her colleague extracted a paper-thin electronic component from within the fabric. Don't damage it. The room fell silent as the component was placed on a sterile surface.